Okay, today is September 19th. Feedback to Marian Olaya on her fifth version. This is Claudia Cero giving her feedback. Okay, dear Marian, again, initially I want to say that your topic, it's a very interesting topic. Your topic is very interesting, and I think that is the reason that you actually need to fight to have a very good research report. In general terms, in this fifth version, I found exactly what I saw at the beginning, and again, my recommendation is that you actually mind map the research report, because I see that there is still confusion on how you are organizing the report. Again, issues like the test organization, lack of connection of ideas. So let's say that those are like key areas that you actually should improve. Going to the versions, as you can see here, I'm having here what you did for the report, the version number 2 in August 11th, or my feedback on the September the 9th, and now my feedback September 12th and September 19th. As you can see, every time that you send a report, I totally take my time to actually read and comment every single page that you are actually giving me. Again, as I'm telling you, this is a very, very interesting topic. This issue of reflective teaching strategies and approach for enrichment of English teaching professional practices. I want you to keep in mind this important title, because it seems that from time to time you actually forget it. If this is the title, if this is like the target of the research, and of course it's going to be like the research question at a certain moment, hey, what you have to find as a result are those strategies that teachers can use to actually reflect on their teaching and in order to improve their teaching. So let's say that one thing is the teaching, and the other one, the teaching strategy, and the other one will be the improvement. So if you have this in mind, probably you will clarify your mind or what you have along the paper. What I see is that, again, I cannot deny that you have been working a lot and that you have read a lot, but when I give you feedback, I have the feeling that in the hurry of actually having a good report and finishing this, you actually do not consider very important issues and very important areas. Number one, the abstract. For the first time, I check it at the beginning. But anyway, it's something that is still needs to be worked once all the research report is done. Here in the abstract, I don't know, there is something about a piloting, let's say, stage that you have. That is not mentioned here. So if you want to include this piloting stage, it has to be shown everywhere. In the abstract, it has to be shown in the research design, etc., etc. So that's an issue that probably we could discuss, and I can help you organize that. As far as I understand, what at a certain point we discussed was that you are going to do what was the name? An exploratory research. That's something that has to be said here, that this is an exploratory study, and you have also to include how that exploration was done. There is a weakness in the way that you are presenting what you are doing, and again, I think that you forgot your four let's say targets that you wanted to analyze. So these four have to be present in the analysis and in the presentation of the results, because indeed these are the four areas that you actually wanted to find in the 17 reports that you read. Be careful, because the numbers in some cases are not the same. You are talking here about 10 plus 8, 18, but in some sections you are talking about 17, so I don't know what happened with that number. The other issue to comment is the organization of the paper per se. Remember that what we are doing is try to accommodate your paper as much as it is possible to the format that we have in regular research papers. Of course, you don't have a pedagogical intervention. Of course, you don't have certain areas, but at a certain point, you are having the same ideas. Let's say that you have a purpose of the study, but if we go to the test, we don't find that purpose of the study. If we say, and if we go to the original studies, it is called the rationale of a study, or it is called the justification of the study, right? Rationale or justification of your study. Good. Then you talk about history of reflective teaching contributions. And I think that this topic, if I do a search, it is not included there. So let me see and to see if I found it. Yeah, it's only here in the table, but it's not in the test. So these are like mistakes that like a careless revision is actually producing in your paper. What I guess that you did and you want to do in the introduction is to justify the study, to present like the background topic, and you have to be aware of the checklist. What does an introduction include? You also, I think that as part of this introduction, you want to justify why this kind of studies is valid. So you have to tell people, as you have done, why your study is important. So you will see a lot of comments regarding this. So the introduction will have the context, will have the justification of the study, and will end up with the presentation of the research question and the objectives. My suggestion is that probably you split the sections. So of course you connect them, but you split the section and make clear the questions and the objectives. I have an issue here because you are talking about the objectives at the end of the paper, but we don't see them clearly expressed here. So which are the objectives? You have to open them here. I think that there is a second section that you call the theoretical framework. If I go to see this subheading, it is not included in the theoretical framework. You see? So again, what you are doing is including headings. You are not changing the table, and the table is like your outline that is actually helping you organize the research. What I think in the theoretical framework, considering again the subheading, the name of the project, what you want to do there is to talk about what reflective teaching is on the one side. That's one thing. And on the other side, you want to talk about strategies. So that's going to be the third construct. And the next one is like the connection between reflective teaching and the improvement of professional development. So we have strategies, improvement, and of course you have reflective teaching. So let's say that these are your three constructs that you want that people have very clear, and those are the ones that are a little bit confused. Because let's say that you keep talking and writing ideas, but they are not clarified. Something that caught my attention is that you keep, at least for 5 pages, talking about Seichner and Liston. It seems like it is the only resource that you are actually using. So careful with that, because it sounds that it was just a unique resource that you use for this section. I guess that the first section, this one, would be about the definition of reflective teaching. It's not about the history, but it's about the definition, how reflective teaching have been seen since Dewey and to the present. So I guess that you have to go and see resources that were taken in 1983, but probably newer resources in which ones reflective teaching is defined. I don't know why at the end of the paper, again, there is an attempt to define the concept. So that's something that is kind of driving me crazy, because you do it again at the end. The second thing that probably you have to highlight in all of the section is, hey, what are those strategies and how teachers can actually improve. This part, in the one that you start talking about, the previous study to let Colombian teachers propose different strategies, actually confused me. There is no connection with what you have said. I don't know if this is part of the, let's say, quotation mark implementations, not sure what it is. In the research design section, as many other projects, there are certain sections, let me see if I have one open here. There are certain sections, research design, that you can complement and that you can include in your report. For example, we have to have an introduction to that, the type of a study. We have to have, we have to have, and here you explain in detail what is this issue of exploratory research. You can describe the context. What is your context? Your context are all of those articles that you found in several, let's say, areas and in several resources. Here you won't have participants, but what you can is like a full description of those studies that you included. With tables, you can also include that. And the researcher's role, so you have to write what was your role along the research. So you were like a collector of information, so you have to find the roles that you did. You analyze information. I included in one of my notes that you have to include ethical considerations. In your case, the ethical considerations, they talk about responsibility, confidentiality, and negotiation. These ones, because they were working with students. I think that you have to find the ethical considerations while working with certain documents. And I guess that you did because you respected copyrights, and we have to find some other terminology regarding that. The data collection instruments have to be analyzed. So you are talking about a table. I don't know if there is any other instrument that you actually use for the research. So this is what has to be included here. I see this issue of the exploratory research very incomplete. You have to give a lot of more support on that, and you have to split the sections so you can actually let people know what you did. In an attempt to explaining the procedures, that's something that you try to do in this section, but it's a little bit messy and it's difficult to understand. And this content analysis issue, of course, it's another section that actually requires development and requires theoretical support. So you have to tell people what is content analysis, why content analysis has been used in research, and why you decided to use it in your research. So this section is totally underdeveloped, to be completed. Good. In order to finish, you go to the results and content analysis. And again, the results and content analysis should go address to the research question, something that you cannot forget, and the objectives, but once you include them above, right? So it's very important that you don't forget where you are going, because you keep adding and adding information. This is a section that I was telling you why this section again, if you are actually talking about the studies that you included over there. If I compare sections and feedbacks, there is a tendency to delete certain valid information that is here and there, and just to delete it. So careful with that, because probably my suggestion was just to modify it or to make it more explicit or something like that. So in some cases I say delete it. Though this presentation looks better, it takes a lot of pages. So my suggestion is probably continue with the table, but make it look more professional. So probably you can enlarge the headings, something like this. Let's say these sections, and let's say the one that corresponds to the link can be shorter, because indeed that probably is not the key one, but what you want to highlight is the title, etc. Even the colors affect. So all of those things are actually issues that you can actually improve. So there I have given you a very detailed feedback the issue of the protocol have to be discussed too.